Thought I'd better say hello. Hello. I haven't really got lots to say, but I'm aware that I don't think I've done a vlog like this for a few days, and it's nearly 10:30 on Friday, and I thought I'd just quickly pop my head round the door and say hello. Still here. It's been tiring having they weren't here today, having the guys here. I think I mentioned it as I did a walkthrough of the house. It's like having them in the house again, being displaced and forgetting that they'd be inside, not outside, because of the way our doors and windows open. Not being able to settle, not being able to sit. This is where I sit. Not being able to sit here all of the time because the next minute it'd be somebody in my window, and I had to move my desk out and move it back, move it out several times, moving furniture. The good part is that I obviously could use my kitchen. The kitchen was never out of commission, and none of the furniture got moved out. So it was, considering it's a hell of a lot easier, but it was just tiring. It was tiring having to get up every morning at 7:30 to be up for them to arrive at 8:00. So that's them done now until the end of August, and then they'll come back and finish off the side and around the back of the house, and then that will be it. That is it. There are no more jobs planned. We've spent a lot of money on the house in the last few months, and we can't afford to do any more, so that is it. I've been quite busy for me today. I went down and I let the chickens out this morning. I sort of decided to go and scrape out a lot of poo from under the roost as much as I could. It's difficult because that you can't get right underneath that roost, and I can't lift it and take it off. That's Mark made it, and it's sort of hanging on wires from the rafters. So I scraped out as much poo as I could from underneath there and chucked it on the compost heap, and then chucked a load of diatom down, and then I've put a bale of straw in, because I thought that they need some straw in there. It was pretty dusty and grotty in there, but I think that we're clear of red mite. I held Mrs. Black last night, the one that had definitely got scaly leg mite, and I think northern feather mite, northern fowl mite on her. Northern fowl mite on above her at the base of her tail. So we oiled her again last night, and I held her, so she had her legs oiled and her back oiled, and I didn't come away with red mite. So I'm pretty sure that that's done. I'm going to start you all yawning, aren't I? I know some people yawn when I yawn, and I'm not doing it deliberately. So we did her last night, and I didn't have any red mite, so I thought, well, it's probably safe to put straw down now. One of the gold brahmas is broody again. She's been sitting up on top of the straw bale that was quite high up in that on that old potting table. But that's the bale I used this morning, so they're low down on it now. So she was easier to hoik off. But so she's broody, so she's sitting there every day, and then I'm having to poke her off with whatever I've got to hand to poke her to get her off. She gets quite annoyed, but gets off. And I know that tomorrow morning she'll be in that bloody corner where the red mite were. That's where she'll be, because there's straw there now. So it's a nice comfortable place. She doesn't have to come out. She doesn't have to go and find a hay bale, a straw bale somewhere else. God, it's so frustrating. So I'm just going to have to, what I'm doing actually every morning when I let them out is they're coming out and I'm closing it off so they can't go back in. So I will hoik her out. It won't stop her from being broody, but I don't want her doing that in that corner. So I did that, and then I came back up here and scraped the apples away from underneath the tree. I saw somewhere yesterday that you shouldn't really leave the apples on the ground around the tree if they're I don't think they're diseased. I think they are from June drop, and they're just sitting there from June drop. But I thought, well, I'll scrape them back. So I scraped them back away so they weren't So a long way from the apple tree, because otherwise you've got the roots and then go into the roots, and apparently that can reinfect the tree and then infect next year's crop. So I thought I'll do that. So I did it. And then I went down this evening and started on the Bramley, but I couldn't. I thought, no, I can't. My arms aren't doing this now. So for me, I've done quite a bit. I mean, these are the jobs that I've done on top of my normal clearing up, making food, clearing up, making food jobs. Folded washing. Yeah, so that's been me for today. I have a question, which this is a bit of a taboo subject and it will upset some people. I was in my local Intermarché today, and at the checkout ahead of me, arriving at the checkout ahead of me, I had walked around the shop past me and in front of me and was very distinctive, was a very tall woman in a dusky pink outfit, trouser outfit, very sort of, glamorous, with a matching cap, carrying a lot of shopping, very overdressed for shopping at Intermarché, and I don't overdress, as you know, so I felt very underdressed because I'd got my falling down pants on, so I'd been hoiking those up all day. And I got to the checkout, and she was ahead of me, and I think he was a transvestite. And what my question is, is why is it that so many transvestites, if indeed that this person was, dressed so flamboyantly to stand out, like, so that, to be so in your face, and that I'm not sure I know the answer. And I think that it must take a hell of a lot of courage to come out and do your shopping looking so different and being so prominent, and knowing that many people will be looking at you. And I could see that the younger girls at the checkout, there were two young girls, and I could see their faces and I could see their reactions, and I was not reacting and just awaiting my turn and looking around me and not at this person, but a lot of people were staring at this person. And I just think it must take a hell of a lot of courage to come out and do your shopping. And then is that wrong? Is that wrong? Does it take that, or is that not it? I don't understand it. And we were talking on the way home and talking about how back in the 90s, because Eddie Izzard's gone through various stages of, I'm going to use this word and it might be wrong, transvestism. And I said to Mark, but Eddie Izzard was easier to, I mean, he's an amazing comedian, and he was easier in terms of how he dressed. It wasn't as flamboyant. It was more, he'd got high heels on and he'd got nail polish on, but he didn't dress as this person dressed, and was easier to accept for how he was. And I just think, why? I don't understand why. If you're, I don't understand. So I don't know the words I want to use to understand, and maybe somebody can explain for me. I don't understand. If you want to be, if this is where you were at and this is what you want to be, would it be easier to be that if you were more subtle? I don't know how else to word it, and I know that it's a difficult subject, and if there are any transvestites looking in, I apologise if I've got anything wrong for you. It's not because I feel shitty towards you. It's because of my ignorance around transvestism. But it intrigued me. I just couldn't work out how that can be comfortable, how it can be comfortable to come out. Is there a blindness? Is there a blindness to, though this isn't appropriate dress to come out to the local supermarket in? Is there a blindness to that? I don't know. Anyway, so that was my day. That was the interesting part of my day, amongst all the mundane stuff that left me asking questions. The log splitter. Yes, we've got axes, we've got log splitters, we've got wedges that you can use. And when Mark was more fit, he could have wielded his axe and hammer to thump in the wedges, and he may well be able to do that to reduce the logs to a suitable size. I'm just pissed off that log splitter is really only suitable for uniform shaped logs. And we can't put in anything that's not uniform, and not even a 50 centimetre log. 50 centimetre logs here are so common. That's what we burn in our fire. That's what a lot of people burn. And this won't take one of those, because sometimes where the wood that we get is they're very big pieces of wood, and it would be nice to be able to split them in half for me to be able to manhandle them. It's not going to do that. I was pretty pissed off about that. However, we will find a way around that. We will, do what we can. And I just brought up a sample of logs from the chicken run, because that's where I was when I emptied the trolley, and I came back up with a sample of logs, feeling shattered, and that's all I did. There are logs around the garden that will work with. It looks like Ludo is going to be starting his micro enterprise in September, and we'll bring him in, and he can do the jobs that we need him to do. I said to him last night, because he messaged me and said that he'd got a meeting about his new business, and I said, well, that's great, and we've got lots of jobs for you when you're ready, so that'll be good. And we'll be able to set him 2 in the garden. It just pisses me off. We spent a lot of money thrown at that wood. The trees felled, the trees cleared, the log splitter, getting someone else to split the logs. By the time we've done all of that, we'll have paid the same amount as we pay to have wood brought in. So it's a bit of a pisser, really, isn't it? Anyway, that's me. That's oh, look at that. Hadn't got anything to tell you, and it's nearly 1/4 of an hour. Oh, I'll tell you a bit more. I've been watching lots of medical programs, ambulance programs and whatever, and I'm now watching something called Inside the Hospice, which is interesting. But the other thing I wanted to say is that Twitter has changed its name to X. Oh, what a plonker. Oh, what a knob that man is. Changed its name to X, and every third tweet is now an advert. I don't go on Twitter much. I go on there about once a day just to have a scroll through, see what's going on. But the last 2 or 3 days I've been going on there, and every advert I've reported it. I've tried it under various different labels. I report it as improper adult material or whatever. Nothing happens, nothing changes, and the same advert comes up the next day. I'm so fucking pissed off with Elon Musk. He's such a... Well, I can't say what he is because it's a word that I don't allow myself to use. Sometimes it slips out. So yeah, that's it. That really is it now. I'm going. And we've not got anything to do. Not got to get up tomorrow or Sunday, and I'm quite pleased about that. Okay, have a good weekend wherever you are.